It's so awesome to be here. And you know, this is exactly what I've been doing, is I've been out there doing it. I have no idea how it's all going to happen. I'm just allowing it, and here I am. And this is my story. I'm going to tell you, don't play small any longer. Never say you're too small. If you say it, vanquish that out of your vocabulary. You're mighty, magnificent. Oh my gosh, we are so magnificent. Hold that in your heart. You are greater than this physical body. It is just a container. I mean, if I thought I was these clothes and I had to identify that's who I was, nothing would happen in my life. Our body is just the container for our soul, and our spirits are mighty. You are, each and every one of you, actually, myself included, the presence and the power of God. God is contained within us and expressing, wanting to be magnificent, but if we don't let it out, we still continue to carry it within. So live life boldly. Just live life boldly. And I hope my story will help a little bit with this. I'm not here to talk about cancer or to do a workshop about cancer. That's not what I'm doing. My work is about awakening. And our world is awakening right now. Right now. You know, I began to Google awakened people, and there's lists of people. It happens to little kids. It happened to a lady who went to take her groceries out of her car, and her life has been different. And sometimes it happens when we have to go through some difficult things in our life. And Eckhart Tolle, I just went back and reread his book, The New Earth, and very early in the chapter when he talks about awakening, he said that the reason why it might be this way, reason why we have to go through some intense things, is because the ego has to actually be flattened. Because when we're awakened, there is no ego. So we have to let go of every ego attachment we have. And sometimes we have to, like me, after being a minister for 23 years, I actually had to go through some really difficult times. But in a very quick time, I rose up. You know, we're coming towards the Easter story, you know. So I'm going to tell you about my crucifixion, but I'm going to tell you that I've resurrected. And not only have I resurrected, we are going to ascend into a new time. Together, this is what's happening. The energies of the earth is right. Charles Fillmore knew it was going to happen. When he was making his life transition, he said that his only disappointment was his life, as he wasn't here to see it happen. Okay, but Papa Charlie, I know you can see it, you know it, and you're assisting, and it's happening. So this talk is really about awakening. So in 2011, I started wondering about awakening, and I thought, who's awakened? There has to be someone else besides Eckhart Tolle. And how does that happen? You know, can I awaken? You know, and what do I do? Do I have to sign up for a class or something? You know, it's like, how do I do this? And, you know, it kind of was on my mind, but I really didn't get it all put together until after the story I'm going to share, okay? And then in 2012, I went to a Mary Mann Morrissey's Prosperity Plus class at a Unity Church in New Jersey. I was without a ministry, and my life was in a shambles, it looked like, anyway, from the outside. And I had, for a year, was on unemployment, and I was trying to get a job, and I put out 60-some applications. I never got one email or call. My unemployment was ending. I was like, now what? So I go, okay, I'm going to take this class, and I go to it. And very early on, I think it's the first or second class, we had to stand up and tell our declaration of what we wanted out of the course. And so I thought I knew, you know, I wanted a job and, you know, more prosperity or whatever, maybe a new life partner, you know, those things we think when we take prosperity. But I'm sitting there, and we're in this circle, and I'm like, oh my God, I knew what I had to say. And I was really afraid to say it. It's like these people are going to think I'm egotistical and crazy, or both. But this is what I got up very boldly when it was my turn. I went last because I was so frightened. But this is what I declared. And don't forget, our word is powerful. I got up and I said, I am the master of health, wealth, and relationships. I am the master of health, wealth, and relationships. And I said it. And very quickly, life began to really turn around. In March, this was in January, in March, I literally accepted a position at a wonderful church that I started at on May 1st that year. I was making more money than I ever did as a Unity minister and ever in my life. I was like, wow, this is great. I'm doing my joy, making great money. I had health insurance for the first time in like 8 or 9 years. I moved into this beautiful complex. So my prosperity was like looking really good. So I'm a master. I was like, yeah, this mastery is happening of wealth. And then I also was able to get medical care that I couldn't for years. And I went to the chiropractor weekly, and I got monthly massages. I became a vegan. I was on this exercise program because my complex had this beautiful gym in it. It was all free. Wow, my health was thriving. I could afford supplements, those kinds of things, like we want to do, but it's like, how am I going to afford this? So now health, wealth, relationships. So Reverend Rose, she can be like friends to a point with all of you as a minister, but there's certain things that she may share with her friends versus you because it crosses the line as a minister. So she can't really be your friend because that causes conflict within a ministry. So she has to save certain parts or reserve that for people who are not affiliated with the ministry. And now I'm in a new town, and where do you hang out when you're a minister but at church? And it's like, how am I going to make new friends? And very quickly I met 2 people who said, I'm not interested in church, but I'm looking for a friend. And it was like, wow. And so that happened. So it really, on the outside appearances, seemed like that mastery was occurring. I was just so blessed. So then a year and a half later, I went to Sacramento, California to get trained by Leilani Burt in the prayer team ministry because I never had that opportunity to do that. And early in July, I came back, and I went into my office the second or third day back, and something was not right. So I called my doctor, and she said, come in, we'll do a little cleanse, and, you'll be okay. So I went in, and I did that, but 2 or 3 hours later, I was in the emergency room. And I thought, have you ever gone to the emergency room, and then they come and say you have the flu, and you're just embarrassed that you bothered these doctors, And so I thought that's what was going to happen. But the doctor came in and said, Miss Venturini, we have some bad news. We have to admit you. You have cancer. Getting those words, you have cancer, there may be people here who have heard it or they have had a loved one, kind of like shifts you someplace you've never been before in your life. And I didn't know if it was pancreatic or colon cancer, but I kind of thought that they were thinking I had pancreatic because this is how it went. So if I have I was being very optimistic. I wasn't afraid. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go through this. It's life. So I said, so if I have colon cancer, what would you do? And they would say, well, you may need surgery, and then you probably will have to have chemo or radiation or both. And I go, okay, well, what about pancreatic cancer? And they go, there's a patient down the hall. I said I'd get right back to you. I'll be back. But they never came back. They just gave me more morphine. So I got on my iPhone, and I began to do some little research on my iPhone, and I had every symptom that I was dying from pancreatic cancer. So I spent 3 days processing this. And on the third day, the most difficult part was what would happen to how will this affect my children and grandchildren, and letting go of all that. And my beloved little 2 dogs, because coming here to South Florida, I insisted I brought my dogs with me, and it worked out. So I was like, who's going to take my dogs? And the most horrible part of it, you just won't believe this. I'll never have a new car. Oh my God, I'll never have a new car. What I since processed, what that car meant metaphysically or metaphorically, was like this body is the vehicle and moving through life, so it was symbolic, okay? And but the third day, I really surrendered, and this was my prayer. I said, okay, God, if I'm supposed to die, I want to do it consciously. I want to have my loved ones around me. I want to have a room full of flowers. I want candles and my angels all around me. And I want to have a peaceful transition. But if there's anything left for me to do, then I'm willing to do that. But I don't know how the hell to do this. That was my example. I don't know how the hell to do it. You're going to have to do it. Because pancreatic cancer, okay, has a very little prognosis of being healed. And so I surrendered to that, and I felt very peaceful. And very quickly I had surgery, and it turned out that I did not have pancreatic cancer. I had stage 3 colon cancer. And the tumor that I had was blocking my intestine, so my intestine was perforating. So that was good news. So that was good news. And so I had my surgery, and then I had decided that I wanted to go to Cancer Treatment Centers for America because I had a holistic oncologist, and I also had my medical oncologist, and so I could do both worlds of holotrophic or holistic work, and I could also, do the medical model, and there would be no conflict. So that's what I wanted. So they flew me to Chicago, and I got there, and I was in this beautiful atrium they have, and I was sitting there the very first day, beginning of August 2nd, and the head of transportation comes up to me, and she goes, "Can I give you a hug?" And so I got up, I hopped up, I felt like I was in a Unity church. It just was like, so she hugs me, and when she gets done hugging me, she said, "Are you awake?" Now, she knew I wasn't sleeping. That's my thought. There's only one other kind of awake I know. And so I looked at her and I said, yes. I mean, what was I going to say? No. She says, good, I'm intuitive. I'll be right back. Now, hold this. This is our context of a hospital. This is happening in a hospital. And so I'm kind of blown away by all this. So then she comes back with a brochure. She said, you have to go see this woman, Susie. And Susie did EFT, and tapping, and she did Reiki and stuff like that. It was like great. So I make my appointment. I go see Susie. Oh, I forgot a little part. Between my surgery and going to Cancer Treatment Center of America within a few weeks, my ministry let me go, and I had no income. And then I was told that I had to leave my apartment building because if I didn't have the rent on the first, they would have started eviction. So I had to leave my apartment, and I had no place to go. So I went to the homeless shelter, and I said, I went actually to senior services, and I go, well, what are my options? And she said, do you have anything in an IRA account? And I go, well, a little bit. There's not much there. And she goes, okay, well, do you have a house? And I said, yeah, I have a house in Pennsylvania. She said, when all that and your savings are gone, come see me. We'll put you on a list. And I said, well, how long is the waiting list? And she said, 3 years. I was like, oh, my God. Now, friends, I'm going to say I created this. I know we create all this. I didn't like my creation in the moment. It hurt a lot. I was like, I had a lot of feelings going on. So I ended up in a basement where it was not a pleasant experience, not just because it was the basement, because I disrupted the harmony of the home because they had plans for the basement. But I was grateful to have a space, and that's where I ended up. So now I'm at Cancer Treatment Centers of America, and she sends me to Susie. And I go to see Susie, and Susie is saying, okay, tell me what happened. So I'm telling her this, and the tear ducts are flowing because, I'm a wreck. I mean, I felt really hopeless. What was I going to do? I still didn't know where I was going to end up living. And so I'm really kind of, upset. And she's going, don't worry about the tears. But then she would kind of giggle and cover her mouth. And she said, excuse me, I have to ask you something because I don't mean to be rude. I go, sure. And she said, do you really believe in angels and ascended masters? And I go, yeah. And she goes, oh, I'm so relieved because this room is packed with them. She said they're everywhere. And there's an ascended master behind me who's talking to me, screaming almost in a loud voice because I've been ignoring him for the last 10 minutes. And he has a message for you. So this was his message. You've created structures for your life that will no longer work for where you're headed. So you have to create new ones. And I go, what are they? And the answer was, you need to figure it out yourself. So that's what I've been doing since that moment. And I'm writing a book about it. And I'm doing this talk because I know that these structures are not just for me. It's for all of us. Because we've been living in a three-dimensional body, okay, having a three-dimensional experience. We're moving into more of a fifth, sixth-dimensional experience. And we're going to be, when we are there, it's different. But in order to go from A to Z, we have to begin to change how we do life. So I'm going to tell you a few of the structures. Would you like to hear them? Okay. So structure number one is that the structure is the difference between transformation and awakened. So when we go through transformation, we do a lot of things. We come to classes, we go to church, we go to workshops, we go to counseling, right? We do all these things. We read books because what are we trying to do? We're trying to change something about ourselves, right? Okay. There's nothing to change. There is nothing to change. Because from the perspective of an awakened state, we're perfect. See, God does not see imperfection. And when we're in an awakened state, we're actually living in what we call in unity our Christ consciousness. We don't see imperfection. So somehow we have to step out of the transformational model to an awakened state. And that is what my work is about, accepting our feelings and emotions and what's going on in our life. And that's what I'm doing with my workshops and my coaching with people. Do things about us change? Yes. But when we step in knowing our perfection in this perfect alignment with this universal presence that we call God, it's not up to us to figure out how. When we're doing transformation, we're trying to figure out how to make it happen. Don't you get tired of trying to figure it out? Are you tired of it? Are you ready to give it up? Yeah, it's the onion. You know, it's like, I don't want another onion layer. Thank you. Okay, structure number one. Structure number two has to do with manifestation versus allowing. So we go to prosperity classes because we want what? Why do we take prosperity classes? Why do we want to manifest things? Abundant, we want something, right? We either want a place to live, or we want money, we want more health, we want that ideal, twin flame to come into our life. There's something we want, right? So we go and we take these prosperity classes, and please hear, it's fine, because in three-dimensional world, this is what we do. But I just want you to see the contrast and begin to work with some of these energies. So when we manifest, we want things in the world. Jesus said, seek the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, and all things will be added unto you. He didn't say seek your twin flame. He did not say seek $1 million and win the lottery and you'll be happy. We've been seeking for a long time. We've had a lot of prosperity breakthroughs. You have, haven't you? Okay. But then we come back right where we're at because we've been seeking things, and those things will not bring fulfillment. The only thing that will fulfill us is when we allow ourselves to be connected with this infinite good, and all things will be provided, just like when Jesus spoke about the lilies of the field and the bird of the air. We don't have to toil and make it happen. We just have to be who we are. Infinite, beautiful people, souls, spirits that have come here to express something in this earth. And everything, when we allow, we stay in that knowing that we are powerful beyond belief, that we are not limited beings. And we just allow that to move through us. We just stay open. And every time we find ourselves closing, we just open ourselves again and just say, I now allow the infinite good to flow through me. All is well. So that's the second structure. Third structure, and okay, I want everybody to take a deep breath because I'm saying this in a unity church. But this is very important. There is no such thing as positive and negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions. No such thing. I get people's faces. It's just great when I say it. They're like, what? Heretic. There's no such thing as positive and negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions. They just are. And as long as we believe in positive and negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions, we keep ourselves stuck in duality. So what do we do with it? They're all different vibrational levels, and that's what I do in the workshop. I teach you about this. They have different energetic levels. Love being the highest, all the way to hopelessness, which is the lowest vibrational frequency, and I could attest to it because I lived there for about 3 or 4 months when I was sick in this basement. And they have different energetic levels, and what we do is we actually travel, when we allow them to pass through us, even joy, happiness, we want to cling to those upper energetic fields, but we don't want those lower energetic fields. And that's according to Buddhism, clinging. It's called clinging. We're not to cling to any of it. It's grasping. What it's meant to do is it's meant to flow through our hearts like a river, free. We, in fact, should not have any emotion, feeling, or thought last longer than 15 to 40 seconds. How many of you have been holding on to something from when you were 2 or 3 years old? Right? What if we just could let it flow and then we could return to harmony and who we are? So there's a way to learn to do that. So those are 3 structures I wanted to share with you today. So I was supposed to have chemotherapy until April of 2014. In November of 2013, I made up my mind, instead of being upset and hurt by my family who resented my using their little room in their basement, that I was going to do something different. I was in the pit, according to the hero's journey, which we're going to talk about in the workshop today. And I was in that pit. When you're in that pit, you don't know how to get out of it? The clue is you do something different. I didn't know that then, but I decided that one night that I was going to do something different. I was so sick that actually I was only awake about 4 hours each day. I slept for about 20. So what I decided to do is I decided to lay in bed and to send love from my heart up through the ceiling. Just unobstructed love. I just kept letting it flow. And I just kept saying, thank you, God, for this experience, because there's something in here. I know that. There's something for me. And that was the shift I made. So that happened in November. December 2nd, I went to cancer. Now, my visits to cancer treatment's always been about the 2nd or 3rd. So November 2nd, I go to the hospital. I have cancer. December 2nd, I go to the hospital, and the doctor looks at me and said, congratulations, you're cancer-free. And then I said, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Because I was changed. Nothing seemed to fit. I was in a different paradigm. What do I do? And so I decided that I wanted to do something to bring hope to humanity because I had felt hopeless. And I wanted to do something maybe to help cancer patients. And so I texted my spiritual daughter, Sherry, in Sacramento, and I said, Sherry, I want to work with cancer patients. And she said, she calls me Amia, spiritual mother. She said, Amia, did you contact Jan Adrian? Jan is this lovely woman who's had cancer 6 times, who does these retreats for cancer patients that are just awesome. And money's not an object. You can go to them if you have cancer for free. She finds funding. And so I contacted Jan, and she said, I don't have anything that I could connect you with, but what about Cancer Journey? And so I called Cancer Journey. And Cancer Journey is a coaching program, mind, body, spirit, in San Francisco. Now, I had been certified in 2 other coaching programs, and now here's another one. And I knew I had to do this. And now I'm coming to your song. Okay? So I called Cancer Journey, and they interviewed me on a Saturday in February. And then they called me on Tuesday, and they said, can you be in San Francisco on Friday? We would like to certify you as a coach, but we're training in San Francisco on Friday. And I said, how much? And they said, $3,000. Wow. I said, I don't even think I have 300. They said, well, there'll be other trainings, so, we just let you know. And I said, well, thank you. They said, we'll help you try to find maybe someone that could sponsor you. Okay. That's Tuesday. Thursday, Sherry, my spiritual daughter, sends me a text from San Francisco with the New Bay Bridge, and she says, sending you love and light from San Francisco. I forgot about the training being in Sacramento, but I remember when I got the text standing up, and I went, oh, San Francisco, that's my favorite city in the whole world. I wish I was in San Francisco. Wham. So what happened, that was at 1. 5 o'clock, I got a call from the coaches, and they said, something happened that never happened before. There was someone registered to come to the training, and she can't be here, and she wants us to give the tuition to someone who would like to come that can't afford to do it. Can you be here in the morning? I said, I don't know how, but I'll be there. So 5 o'clock Thursday, I had to find someone to watch my dogs. I had to get a ticket. I had to figure out how to pay for all this. I had to get ground transportation. I had to get a hotel. I had to wash my clothes, pack my suitcase, yada, 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 yada. 2:30 in the morning, I go to sleep. 3:30 in the morning, I get up. 6:30. 6:30, I'm on the airplane. I'm sure I snored all the way to San Francisco and kept everybody on the plane alert. And I got off on the tarmac at 10:15 the next day. That's how life is meant to be lived. Get it? Get it? It's just we have to get up and do it. We just have to get up and do it. And that's how I ended up here in when I was in that basement a year ago, I was still in the basement. I didn't move out until the end of March. I kept going, it's so cold. I wish I was someplace warm. Did it all winter. Guess where I am this winter? So I had this idea. I wanted to go see my cousin who lives here in Florida. I hadn't seen her in 35 years. So I had this idea, if I could get 2 ministers to offer me to come to do a Sunday service back to back, I could afford my ticket and I could come see my cousin. And I very quickly, I reached out to a few ministers. I get this email back, come and do a tour. And I said, well, I can't leave my dogs for all that time. So long story short, what was going to be 2 weeks turned into 12 weeks. When my housing fell apart because the person who invited me to bring my dogs, and Reverend Rose got an email from me, I didn't know what to do. I ended up staying in this beautiful little like coach home overlooking the intercoastal with my 2 little dogs. And I'm writing my book and I'm going through this journey. That's how life is meant to live. Are you ready to step into your greatness? We are meant to live a life of fluidity, flexibility, openness. This is where we're going. Doesn't it sound better than what we've been hanging on to? Are you ready to let go of the old? It's not just for the lucky ones. Each one of you here in this room is mightier than what you are currently living your life. You are here to awaken, and as you awaken, the world awakens. So I invite you today to step into your greatness, to know whatever you have to face to be awakened, it will turn out better than you could even imagine. And I hope some of you come to my workshop today and we'll learn a little bit more. I have a handout. I have a mailing list. If you can't be here and you'd like to be on my newsletter, I send out a monthly inspirational newsletter, and I have my current, where I'm going to be speaking in that. But if you'd like that, I'll put it somewhere after the service. And please come join me today. And I want to thank you for you being here and for the light that you are. God bless you. Namaste.